not, I hope it doesn't stay this way. This has been a little snake bit to get to this point, but I am with the one and only W.L. Hawkin. How you doing tonight?
I am doing well now. Now that we're here.
Yeah, no. So both of us had problems. When I
Mhm.
set up the stream to go live, and the computer just went, no, we're not doing that. And I'm like, oh, we're not. That's
Mhm.
awkward. And she never got the link, the link I sent her. She's like, oh, well, that's a problem too. So we both had to figure this out. How long did you end up waiting for me, if you don't mind my asking? Was it for a while?
Well, we were supposed to meet at 5,
Yes.
and I got the link at 5 my time because I'm in the Pacific. 4:58, I got the link 2 minutes before we were supposed to start on my laptop.
Yeah.
But then I didn't get it on my iMac. So it's 5:25 now. So half an hour.
Yeah. So
Close.
just off and on, like let me out on the screen, because I did send it, but it was just like,
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Mercury's not even retrograde, so I don't
Well,
know.
no. See, I'm a big believer in Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong at the worst
Mm,
possible time, causing the most inconvenience for us all.
mhm, mhm.
I also, but but the commentary has always scared me on Murphy. And there's a commentary on Murphy's Law. It was Murphy was an optimist. It's like,
Oh,
that's the commentary on that law.
okay.
Yeah.
That's optimistic, huh? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Murphy was an optimist. Like, that's the optimistic point. Oh shit,
Mhm,
what's the worst? Like, I don't want to know.
mhm.
Like, at that point, I don't want to know. I know this because my chemistry teacher had Murphy's Law on the top, and then he had the
Okay.
commentary right to the right, and you're like, so Mr. Finley, I don't know if you're still alive because it's been a long time, but shout out to you. I remember that from your class.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
things you're programming when you're a kid, right? So, I mean, it's been I look, I think, a little younger than I actually am, right? So, I mean, I'm 41, probably secretly 12, but that's not neither here nor there, right? Right. So, I mean, you probably like what, 39, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that. You're
something
gonna go
like that.
39. Yeah. It's like something like that. So I mean, you've been around a
Something
while
like that.
yourself. It's the things you remember as a kid. You're like, what the hell? It's like, for me, Murphy's Law. But we're here, and we are
We're
here.
here. We're here.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me. So I saw a little bit of the stuff you were sending me. So I gotta ask this: were you a little nervous about this interview going into it?
No.
No,
Why, did I seem nervous?
a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, usually when I'm getting all this information given to me by whoever's sending me, it's like, oh, they might be a little nervous on the screen. And they just like, so I noticed that little correlation in
Oh,
that
no.
pattern.
It's because I watched a couple of your podcasts, and you were like doing things in aquariums with creatures and things like that. And I was like, okay, like what kind of podcast is this? That's all. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't
yeah,
know what's going on with this guy. He does like really weird things. And I thought, well, he likes animals. So I saw some animal stuff. I'm like, well, we could talk about the animals in my books because I got lots of animals in my books. And I'm
yeah.
always out with my dog, so we can talk about animals. Like I just was like, what are we going to talk about?
Figure it
So,
out as we figure out as we go. So you've been doing the writing thing for a while.
oh yeah, you know, not quite the whole 39 years, but
Not quite, not quite.
pretty long. Yeah, yeah,
Like 37 and a half, something like
something
that.
like that.
Like that's
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that, 37 and a half. You knew pretty early this is
yeah.
what you were gonna do.
No, no. Well, I mean, I really loved English in school, and I loved my English teachers, and talking about things in school that were important to you. So that was, but no, I did a lot of other things too. So yeah.
So then how'd you come here? But how'd you end up getting into the writing then?
Well, I was really good at English, and
Mhm.
so I ended up graduating very late from high school, and I don't want to tell you when, but it was quite a while. I was a long time. I quit school when I was 16, so it took me a long time to actually graduate from high school and start university. And yeah, and then I ended up becoming a teacher. So yeah, I know, which is not the greatest thing for an introvert to do. A high school teacher, no less.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's the perfect thing for an introvert to do because it beats it right out of you very quickly.
No, what it did is it had me coming home and lying on the couch watching Big Bang Theory for like 6 hours every night because
Oh wow,
I was like so stressed
drained,
out, so
drained.
stressed out. So that's how I started writing. As
Oh wow.
I created this Wicca coven, and I started writing this murder mystery about this Wicca coven, and they have just stayed with me. They just kind of, especially my main character appeared like full force, and he's just been telling me what he's been doing for quite a while now. 4 books worth.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious about this. Why'd you drop out from high school, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, you know what? It's just like I was a pretty wild child. I got into a
No, it's okay.
no, no. I got into a lot. I got into a lot of trouble in high school, and like I got good marks, but I was also okay. I guess all right. We're just joshing, right? I guess what really started the whole situation was that I had a pot party on Easter Monday when I was 14. And my dad heard about it through the scuttlebutt because he was like a lay minister thing. And he heard the people at church talking about how I was having this pot party. Well, yeah. And so he actually, I had like 5 of the kids had shown up, and we'd smoked a couple of joints and got rid of the roaches. And all of a sudden we were in my bedroom listening to music on, the vinyl. And all of a sudden there was like a man in my bedroom window in a suit, and another one in the doorway. And the narcs just came, and they came right in the house because my dad gave them permission. And so I got busted when I was 14. That sort of started the whole thing. And yeah,
Wow.
it just went downhill from there.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack, right, in that story right there. No, I don't mean this in a bad way. So let's get
No,
some.
I don't normally tell people that story.
Oh,
Okay.
no, it's all good. I again, so I'm just give my family's background. My grandmother never finished high school because
Okay.
at 13 her mom died, and she ended up raising the brothers and the like. She became. So I don't have any, like, to be perfectly honest with you, like I think to be like some of the wisest, smartest people I ever met never finished school, right? And they've had their own reasons reasons, right? So
Yeah.
so I just want you to be clear, like no judgment. I've learned very much that like in a lot of ways, not every way, but a lot of ways, education can be a wonderful experience, but it also in some ways it's just a piece of paper. It means far less than people realize in some ways. Other ways, it's huge. I'm not saying don't go to school. What I'm saying is it doesn't take away the quality of the human being you are, regardless of whatever you do. But yeah, I want you, something you just said just grabbed me really early. I just want to make sure I get this understanding. So your dad was a minister?
Yeah, he was an Anglican lay minister, so he was ordained by a bishop. And
Oh
so
wow. Okay.
he was also an electrician, but he used to do the services, and he had the gowns and everything. And that appears a lot in my books because what happened, after he had me arrested, well, I wrote a piece about it once called Bad Girl: Legacy of the Father-Daughter War. And that kind of sums up what happened after that. Like, yeah. So
well,
I wanted to get out of the house. So basically, by the time I was 16, I went to Toronto and worked as a secretary, and that met my ex-husband, who was a musician, and didn't. And then later, much later, after I had children, I was like, I want to go back to school. I think I need to. I think I need to do that, and so I did. And I went and I graduated from high school and went to university. So I do actually believe in an education because of one big thing. It gives you freedom. And because I was able to then, when I left him, I was able to have a whole career, raise my kids, my daughter on my own as a single mom, because I was a teacher, and life was good.
Like I said, I don't want you to misunderstand. It's not that I'm against an idea of education. I just look at what it is today compared to what it was even when I was going to college back in my day. Shut up, clouds. But I mean, one of those things like I feel education's a lot more exploitive of the people going to get educated today. A
Mhm.
lot of like I think it's a mistake, in my opinion, to pay students pay so much money for
Oh,
training.
yeah.
I think it's a
Yeah.
huge mistake, and
Yeah.
I think so to the point that now and especially in today's world when we have so much access to knowledge. If you really want access to knowledge, it's readily available to anybody. I don't know what to tell anybody in terms of a university or college education anymore because I don't know if the what you're going for is what you're going to get, and if you're not going to get what you're going for, is the cost you pay worth it? And that's a huge topic. But the
Mhm.
concept of learning, going to in a classroom with peers, going to learn and grow and constantly evolve. And again, knowledge is power. Knowledge is freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I totally buy that. And by again, not knocking any teacher, any system, any world, like whatever. Like I think teachers are one of the most important jobs,
Mm.
literally in a civilization. They're one of the most important because your real power again isn't so much your knowledge, it's the ability to give people permission to pursue their own goals. And I think that's what a
Yeah.
teacher does better than that is the profession that encourages that the most. And great teachers, again, like my writing career, I owe a lot to my grade 11 English teacher. He
Yeah, me
actually,
too.
yeah, he actually went out of his way when I was writing books and stuff like that. He actually read my first novel and was giving me notes and stuff like that.
That's
This is way back.
nice.
Yeah, no,
That's
I had an amazing grade 11 teacher, and he wasn't the only one. I had a lot of amazing teachers in like in that era. So again, I think education is invaluable,
Mhm.
but the way it is today, I don't have a clear answer for anybody anymore, and I can't honestly say go to university because I don't know if that's actually the right thing anymore for everybody. I don't go to college. I don't know if that's the right thing for anybody anymore. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? I don't have that clear-cut answer anymore. And I think that's more with the way the pricing of education has come to today, more so than the experience of it, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yep. It worked
Yeah.
for me. It worked
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely. No, absolutely,
Yeah.
and it works for
Yeah.
people too. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it doesn't, right? It's
Mhm. Mhm.
just like I said, it's just one of those things like because I've debated going back to school for like because I enjoyed learning, I enjoyed the course, I enjoyed the experience of it. But is it worth the money for what I want to do? Because I don't really, again, for me, it's just a piece of paper. It's not important to me in the same way
Mhm.
that somebody else might want it. So and that's a factor too. I love to learn, but I don't necessarily. Again, it's a weird headspace for me. But for you, I'm glad it worked out. But it sounds now going back to you. Um, going back to you a little bit. Sounds to me like your dad screwed up right there in that.
You know what? And I know that he did it in a position of I'm scared. Like I scared him.
Hmm.
Because I was a wild kid and I was it's just who I am. And he didn't know what to do and he didn't talk to me. He never talked to me. He was always scared to talk to me. So rather than talk to me, well, something would happen and I'd come home and there'd be like some strange minister in the house. And I'd be like, "What's he doing here?" "Oh, he's gonna
uh,
talk to you." And or they'd send me to the office. "See the guidance counselor. Your parents are worried about you." So that really gave me major resistance around
oh
all of
yeah.
that. But and some
Well, yeah,
payback.
because
I mean, I got him. I got him back. A
well that
psychologist said that to me once. She goes, "You really got your dad back, didn't you? You got him back good." You
so
know.
I lived in a Mormon community for a couple years, and one of the things about that whole thing is the expectation of what people are supposed to be. Young
Mhm.
you, again, he now yes, the electrician. That wasn't a reputation thing. He was a minister, and you were the rebellious daughter. And it's a far more common
Mhm.
thing than a lot of people want to admit
Mhm.
because you see all this. Like again, and there's two parts of it. To the rest of the world, he might be a minister, and he might be in one sense. You are like him in one sense, and it's this: he was teaching people. You are teaching people. So I mean, in some ways, the apple
Yep.
didn't fall.
I'm like him in so many ways. I mean, this is part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
I'm
it's
so
totally
much like
fair.
him. I mean, he was also a very spiritual person, and very quiet and very introverted, and so he was doing like Rosicrucian after he was was a lay minister. Then he ended up going and becoming a Rosicrucian. He got into all this kind of magic-y stuff, like Yeats and all that stuff. And of course I did too. So, I've studied Druidry and Buddhism and Wicca and all of these things. It all shows up in my books. And so all of that searching thing that he was doing, I'm doing. And yeah, he showed up quite a bit. He's gone now, obviously, but he when I was doing mediumship a couple of years ago, he kept showing up. And it was weird because when you're doing mediumship and you're talking to spirits, they show up in whatever way you're going to know who they are. So for him, I would be like in this meditative thing, and I'd see a glass with like some false teeth in it, a glass of water with false teeth, and I'd be like, oh, my dad's here again, right? And
Yeah.
because that was, I remembered him, but he was quite happy that I was learning this stuff, So I mean, I've come a long way with that. I was really angry for a lot of years. I equated him with God for many, many years when I was younger. And so I didn't want to have anything to do with God. And it's interesting. And so I've kind of come to a place now where I've forgiven him for trying to save me in a really bad way. But my advice to parents is talk to your kids. Don't send them to the police. Like, don't put them into the system. Like, that's just not a good thing.
That was a point of no return right there. It
was. I mean, this is real. So think about it. There's like a certain amount of kids in your area, and as soon as that came out, it was like you're not playing with that girl anymore.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so can I ask what? Like, you don't have to give me the exact specifics. Whereabouts in Ontario?
Pickering.
Oh, just Pickering? Okay.
Yeah. Well, it was rural enough.
No. Back. No. I know. So I realized, like, okay, so I was born in Oshawa, Ontario. I'm in Calgary, Alberta.
That's
no way. Yeah, way.
Oh wow.
Okay. So I know because again, when I was a kid, there is still distance between Oshawa and Whitby and Ajax and Pickering.
Yeah.
Right. I was wondering if it was going to. So for me, this is just what I've noticed every time I go to Ontario. You go east of Oshawa, there's a huge metaphysical area from like Bowmanville to Ottawa, and you can just feel it. If you know what you're looking for, you feel it across the board. It is that section of the country is very different spiritually than Oshawa West or maybe Montreal. Like it's like that area, for whatever reason, there's something there that has made.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm 50-50 with it. There are things about it I like, and there are things about it I don't. When I watch it, there's a certain uniformity to it that worries me a little bit. But on that said, people seem happy with it. What do I know, right? But so I was like, okay, so whereabouts? So I was thinking in there, like I was thinking right in there, right? So because it was like that's where a lot of that stuff is. Like go to Bowmanville, Lindsay, you go into that area. It's big time there. So
the last place I lived was actually Caesarea. Do you remember Caesarea? It's just sort of around a curve from Port Perry on Highway 7 heading towards
Ottawa?
Peterborough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, very, very. Again, that's as far east as I went was there. I mean, I've been to Ottawa for convention stuff, but I mean, like that whole it's easy. It's that feeling. And then, like I said, then you go to Oshawa. Like Oshawa seems to be the magic line. You go to Oshawa and you go west. It's a
gem town.
Yeah, but you go west of Oshawa. Even back in the day, it was a different and this is again, this sounds weird to people who've never had any kind of spiritual kind of thing. It's like there's a different feeling of the spirit when you go Oshawa West,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it goes all the way that way until you get to around Windsor, and then Windsor
Mm,
is kind of its own thing. And
interesting.
yeah, Windsor is unique in the sense that it is one of the only cities I've ever lived in where, by and large, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are. You can talk to anybody in that city. Doesn't
Mm,
matter, right? It does not matter, and everybody's just doing their thing. It's a really, in that sense, it's a really cool place. Now, Windsor does have its flaws, like it's just big enough where you need a car, which is weird for a city like that. But that's a digression. But again, if you're talking about the spiritual stuff, like again, like Oshawa West feels very different than once you get to Bowmanville. Once you get to like East, it's again,
mm-hmm.
it's something maybe you know it, maybe you don't. I'm assuming since you've played in those areas, you know what I'm talking about. It's just there's for whatever reason there's like a line right there,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure why, but there's a line right there. So
I do know I went to an amazing psychic once that was right there on the other side of
yeah,
right there. Like I can't remember what the name of the town was, but it was around that moment.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's it's like that whole area is there are like these pockets of places you go to, and you can just definitely just you can tell by the nature of the place
Hmm.
exactly like what's what. But I mean, it's interesting. Your dad was in the heart of this, and so I can imagine what that town was like, again, based on my experience living in a Mormon community of all things, because I could just imagine it. Small town, probably one predominant religion dominating everything, right? And then so there's a bunch of people that have bought into it or rebelling in various ways throughout, because that's just
Hmm.
how it works. And then there's like a handful of people that go on the fringe because of whatever happened. And when your dad did what he did, he basically set you on a course.
He did. He
Yeah,
absolutely, yes, yes, he did. I mean, I had to completely. I started hitchhiking into West Hill.
yeah, oh yeah,
I would, I walked down to Highway 2, which is Kingston Road, and I would hitchhike. I was like 15, which was super dangerous. And don't do that, kids. But that's what I was doing. You know,
I don't play moral conduit anymore, because it's like, here's the thing: if I was willing to do it, I can't tell anyone not to do it.
oh, it's
Right?
just dangerous. It's really
Oh, sure,
dangerous.
no, no, I absolutely,
Mhm.
again,
Yeah.
I've done my own fair share of hitchhiking too. It's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, you know what? It's risky. There's no doubt about it. But
Hmm.
I can't say it anymore. It's just like, don't do it, or do it because I did it. It's kind of like one of those like pot called the kettle black kind of things. Like, don't
Yeah.
do it. Do what I say, not what I do. It's like that shit never works. That shit
Yes.
never works. Right. So
Anyway, yeah. So that's kind of where I come from.
yeah.
And that all evolved into my stories. Yeah.
So I'll go to the second question then, because you mentioned that you considered him God.
Yes.
Did you ever make peace with God? I'm asking that.
Yes, but in a different way.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, no,
As
it's
a
fine.
as a as a as a creator universal force kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
But not in the sense of the you know, old man in the sky.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I just figured no, because again, and then the last thing, then we'll move on. We'll talk about some of your books and stuff like that, and the other life choices that you made that sound like it sounds like you hit a point where you realized that you couldn't keep living this way anymore. And we'll get to that in a minute. But all I'm going to say is, it just it going like with this earlier theme. I have noticed that when people outright quote unquote get to that point of rebellion, it's just that's it. I'm going this way, and this is the way I'm going, and I'm going to find my answers that way. It sounds like at some point you did. So
I'm a searcher for
mhm.
sure. A
Yeah,
searcher, a seeker. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So can I ask silly questions at a specific time? Are you still in Ontario? Are
No, no,
you
no. I'm in British Columbia.
okay? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it's
I
fun.
like I like I like vacated, with my daughter and a puppy in a U-Haul
No,
and just
I
drove.
get you. I get you. I'm in Calgary right now. I lived in BC, so we're not that far away. We both have gone on. It
Yeah.
sounds like what we have in common is we've both been on some wild journeys.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's like
is. It is.
yeah,
Hmm.
no, for me, I never had like again, not quite the same thing. I've chased my dreams my whole life, and it's put me in some very interesting places. And I think one of the big lessons in my life was to just learn that just to take people as they are. I
Hmm.
think that's a super important thing. If you want to help people with whatever they decide to do in their lives, I find the best way to do it is to just, again, going with something you said earlier, just talk to them. You may
Hmm.
not change their minds. That's not necessarily what you're supposed to do, but what you can do is you can make them aware of some of the different things this choice may lead to, and
Hmm.
give them the advice that way. Because again, trying to tell somebody you can't do this,
Hmm.
that shit never works. It never ever works. But if you say, okay, if you do this, you might see this, this, and this, and this, and at least think about it. Right? That is a lot more respectful. You're still saying, hey, it's your choice. You do what you want, but
Hmm.
this is where it'll lead you if you go this way.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, when I, organized that pop party, it was just because I liked this guy named Peter. and and I wanted him to come over. And he was a couple of years older, so he was 16, and the cops really used that against me. Because I was 14, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna take him, we're gonna put him in prison." And like they were just, that
They were
whole
di-
thing.
they
And
were
and
dicks. They were
and
dicks.
that was why. And it wasn't like I wanted to get into drugs. It wasn't like any of that.
Mm.
I was super innocent. And yet that moment is a defining moment because I moved from innocence to experience. Boom, it was there. And then after that, I'm in that house
No,
2 years. I didn't last
what?
2 years.
No, you no longer fit. Like you just no longer fit there, and
I,
yeah,
you know,
and
I was. I think actually, I haven't thought about this before, but I think it was a huge betrayal.
no,
Like
no, no,
a
no, no,
huge
no,
betrayal.
absolutely no. Here's the thing.
And yeah,
At the most, you were hoping to possibly fool around a little bit with your buddy at the 16. That might be like hang out with him, maybe see what happens. Maybe whatever, right? Instead, your dad has a flips out, doesn't even talk to you about it. Sends some kind of like it showed a lack of trust. And
yeah,
once you realize there was a subconscious again, once people's trust are broken, that's it.
I know.
That's it.
Yeah,
It's over.
yeah,
Like that.
yeah.
But if people don't realize this, like honestly, that's the foundation of French of any relationships, trust. And it doesn't matter
Hmm.
what kind of relationship it is,
Hmm.
it's trust. And if you break it, that's it. I mean, it is possible to fix it, but it takes an incredible amount of work to get to that point again.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's why authenticity is one of the most important things as any
Yep.
kind of in anything. Because if you're not authentic, right, and your actions will tell people exactly where you stand,
Hmm.
right? So that's just the way it is. Like your actions will give you away, and once people realize and see your actions for a certain way, that's it. No,
Yeah.
they're not going to change their minds easily. You have
Hmm.
to work at it, and if you don't, it's over. And your dad didn't know how. It sounds like the other thing too, like
No,
he
and
you
you know
know
what? And he didn't know how. And I mean, that was the thing is like he had. I've gone back and I've looked at his childhood and everything too. And I mean, he had a heck of a childhood too. So,
Mhm.
and then I have an older sister who is kind of the opposite of me. And
Yep.
so she was very good, and he was quite okay. So he went to World War II. He got married my mother and became like an RCAF tail gunner and went to Britain and came back with PTSD.
Yeah.
And so that, I take all that into consideration in this scenario. And then it took a long time for my sister to be born. And then he just was madly in love with my sister. I mean, he just thought she was the best. And then I came along 6 years later to the day, same birthday,
Oh
6 years,
wow.
right? And my mother said, get away from this one. This one's mine. You can have that one. And it was a really interesting family dynamic. So he didn't talk to me, he didn't understand, and he didn't know what to do with me. But he knew that he felt like I have to do something. I have to do something because she's out of control, right? I wasn't at that point, but if you'd asked, I would have said I'm not out of control. But
well, you weren't probably. You probably weren't. Like you probably had you were like what everybody gets. You were curious about some things, and you were exploring. But again, that's normal. Like dare I say, that's a very normal, not normal reaction to life. Hey, I'm doing this, and all these things are out there, and some of these things I'm going to try, some of these things I'm not going to try, and you're just going to figure that shit out. That's just part of the thing. Right. And you were probably going to make some mistakes along the way if things had gone its normal course, but you would have learned from it, grown, and you would have been a very different person. But because he didn't talk to you, and right, it changed your whole course. So I guess I'm going to ask, and now we're going to go forward a little bit because because you decided you were going to get your education. And you decided that I was going to change my life. Was there like a rock bottom moment? Was it just like
you know how to answer ask the questions, eh?
This is my 875th episode. I've interviewed a lot of people.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, so I mean, this is kind of thing where things are interesting. So I've always was trying to figure out who I was, and I didn't like where I fit. Okay. And so when I was still married and I started taking correspondence courses in high school, I took a Native Ancestry grade 11 course, and it completely blew my mind. I always just had that belief, in animism, that everything is animated, that everything has spirit, and all of those things. And always wanted to live in a cabin in the bush. And I grew up outside, wandering around on my horse and being in nature and all that stuff. So I took this course, and I was just blown away. And I decided I wanted to take more of what we called Native studies in those days. So Trent University in those days had a fantastic, still does, Indigenous studies program, and I really wanted to do this. And my ex-husband said, "No, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to go to university." And so again, the rebellious, I'm like,
yeah.
Hey, okay. So anyway, 10 years later, so I left him and I went to university, and got a degree in Native studies. And that completely changed me. Because the whole philosophy and everything else, and there was so much healing I did there. Because I mean, I don't want to go into details, but if you're an at-risk kid and you're 14 and you get busted for pot, and then you start like going down this pathway, there are a lot of opportunities to get hurt, and so I needed a lot of healing. And I'm not going to go into all of it, but I needed a lot of healing, and that's where it came from. It really came through there. And so that's very, very close to me. Indigenous studies is a big thing for me. So that was another path that I took.
Okay. One last question I'm going to ask about this, and then we'll move on. We'll talk about the Indigenous studies and we'll get into your books. I promise. This is just an impression I got after your dad's incident. You became very angry.
Oh yeah.
Very angry. And I'm going to make a wager here. And this is just a wager in my head. I'll see if I'm right about this. That anger was your strength for a very long time. And then somewhere along the way, it failed you. Because, and what I mean by that is because here's the thing. Anger is great. And anger does give you a certain sense of power. But it's like a torch. You can only carry it for so long before it burns you. And there are things in this life, and this is just, I speak from my own experiences on this. Anger is just not enough. And sooner or later, you come across those situations when you're angry all the time that your anger will not save you here. And then you have to look inward toward whatever peace and acceptance you have to look for.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I speak from my own experience. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
guessing that was what happened to you.
Well, it took about 20 years for me
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
to get, but I still have an edge.
Oh, no, no,
I
no.
still
Oh,
I still have
absolutely.
an edge. I certainly have buttons that, you don't want to push.
Did, did,
And when I was a teacher, it's funny because the kids used to say to me, because I'm pretty quiet, right?
yeah.
And the kids actually said to me in the classroom, like, we would hear some teacher yelling a couple of doors down, like really yelling at the kids. And I'd be like, oh, and they said, we're not afraid of that teacher. We're afraid of you
Mhm.
because we don't know. We don't know what we're going to do if you ever get mad at us. That's kind of,
No, because here's the
know?
thing, like a little bit of that. This is something I've learned. Like, again, my own experiences too. You always keep a little bit of that edge because you remember
Yeah.
what you've been through. You needed it. There are points in your journey you needed that anger.
Mhm.
It kept you going in situations you probably, not all of them probably were wise to find yourselves into, but also just life in general.
Mhm.
You have this ability. There are points in the journey where you have to learn how to be a little mean. It's just it's the nature of the world, right? You need it a little bit, right?
Mhm.
It's that, but it's the control, the discipline of it, right? You have it, but it's learning, like, do I need this right now, right? Or can I be a
Mhm.
nice? Can I be nice W.L. Hawkin, right? All right, which one do I like? Because here's the,
Right.
again, because when you get caught in that, and this is just something I experienced. When you get caught in that, it feels good sometimes to cut loose. At the
Mhm.
same time, it's not always the wisest course of action
Mhm.
either,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's real strength, ironically enough, comes from peace and discipline. And I again, this is older, wiser me, who sometimes the clouds talk back to, that
Mhm.
figured this
Mhm.
out. Younger me did not always understand this, but
Mhm.
older,
Mhm.
slightly wiser-ish me, right?
I get that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Does
Yeah.
that make
Yeah.
sense? Am I on
Yeah. Yeah.
something, or am I
Yeah.
on something?
For sure. For sure. I mean, I was angry. I also had no self-esteem at
Mhm.
all. I mean, I felt very unloved. I mean, if when someone does that to you and doesn't talk to you about it and all, I just felt very, very
Yeah,
unloved.
no, totally.
And so, then you go looking for love in all the wrong places. That country song is out there for a reason,
Oh, absolutely.
and
No,
that's
it's
and that causes all kinds of issues. You
yeah,
know.
because you don't usually find those love in the wrong places is usually some form of abuse. Like I said, we don't need to go down that path, but yeah,
Well, you become a victim
yeah,
quite
very easily.
easily.
Oh yeah,
Quite
no,
easily.
and then that anger can save you
Hmm.
sometimes. Sometimes it
Sometimes and
can't.
sometimes not.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, and so, at one point I had to like turn the victim sign around, like be like, okay,
yeah,
I don't need to do this anymore. That off, because when you're wearing that, people they know, and it's like predator prey. They can feel that,
oh yeah,
and so there's that. But I also had to develop self esteem, and really education helped me do that.
oh,
When
absolutely.
I went to university and I did that all by myself. I just went, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to become who I want to be. And then I started writing these books, and then I was like, oh, I'm a writer. Who knew?
Okay,
Right?
but that okay. So that now we get to we'll get to closer to the present day
Yeah.
university you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, like I look at, like, how do you, like, a lot of people will ask, how do you build self-esteem? And the answer is just do shit. That's
Yeah.
literally the
Yeah.
answer to that question. You
Yeah.
don't,
Absolutely.
right, you do shit. That's all. I mean, I'm simplifying this very much because there's a process to it too. The big process is completing what you promise to yourself you start,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? That's it's that simple, honestly. That's what it takes to build it. It takes time to build those things, though,
Yeah.
but that first time, like, you're doing something, you can feel that progress, you can feel it, like something comes to life inside you, you're like, "Oh my god, this is how it's supposed to be," and suddenly, well, it's not so suddenly, you just keep doing this more and more and more, and then one day you realize,
Hmm.
I'm not that person anymore. I'm somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, when did this happen? And and for all of us, that's it. That again, we all go through those journeys. And I think I always think, looking back, I think your 20s is when you're trying to really figure shit out. And if you started a little earlier by the situation the hand you were kind of dealt there a little bit. But generally speaking, teenager, 20s, you're figuring out your shit. Your 30s, it's like, you get to a wonderful point where you're like, I don't need to put up with this shit no more. Right? And then you get to like my age, 40s, and you're like, wait, I can do what I want. Like, right. Yeah. Right. And I can do what I want. Fuck this. Right.
Yeah.
And then I can only imagine myself at 50. I think I'm gonna be like this like terrifying monster that's just doing whatever, like rampaging and doing what he pleases. I could see that a little bit, and like because you realize, like I think as you realize, like a lot of these things we were told when we were younger aren't real. And what I mean by that is the rules of how things are supposed to be, they don't really exist. And once you realize that, you're like, wait, I'm not gonna do any of this shit. All right, why am I doing this shit? Right. And then that's a beautiful like eureka moment. Right. And right. That was me. Now, I obviously you're 39 and however many like 7th, 8th, 9th, like 3/4 or whatever the case may be. But that's what happens. Like you come to that freedom point, and once you realize that, it's like, well, what do I want to do, and who do I want to be, and that is probably the rest of the journey to the rest of your life.
Freedom is huge.
Yeah.
Huge for me. Huge.
For most of us, honestly, when you get right down to it, it's freedom. Like I only know 3 things that matter. God, doing what you love, with people you love.
Yeah.
That's it. Really, when you get right down to it, that's it. Everything else is nice, right? You have a good house, that's nice. You're rich, that's nice. You're poor, that's nice. You have a car, that's nice. You have kids. Now, obviously, that like I think all of us kind of want that legacy to carry on. Maybe that could be in the people you love.
That slides into people you love, exactly.
Yeah. That slides into the people you love thing. But when you look at the things of the world, like honestly, the things of the world, there's not a hell of a lot. There's not a hell of a lot that really matters when you get to the end of the day.
Stuff. It's just stuff.
Yeah, or distractions. That's it.
Well, I'm glad that we have completely found the secret to.
Yes.
Yeah.
42.
Yeah.
42. That's the secret to life. I don't know if you read that book or not, but that's the secret.
No, I haven't. So
the tagline for this show is we talk about life, the universe, and everything. Well, that's actually a riff off a title called Life, the Universe, and Everything by Douglas Adams. So the first book is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which essentially is the Earth blows up, and the thing is, Earth was created to answer the meaning of life. And what's the meaning of life? 42. So it's like that's the joke, right? That's the joke of the book, right? It's like and the question is book 2, which is 6 by 9, and then Life, the Universe, and Everything is is just the continuation of exploring the meaning of life in one of the most absurd comedic ways possible. So yeah, so that's where this show is like has a little bit of that absurdity to it. So hence the thing. So no, it's like, so do I have the answers to life? I don't know. This is what I know works. Everything else I don't know, and I'm a big enough man to acknowledge it.
And you're asking the questions.
Yeah, that's
important.
Well, yeah, that's it. There's not much else to this life. Like when this show breaks 1,000, I'm going to be on the road serving ice cream and booze to various authors I talk to on the show. Because what else? You're like, right? Why not? Well, why not? right? Life, like here's the other thing, like why do something? Why not do something, right? I'm very much the why not do something kind of guy, because
Mhm.
really, I mean, if you depending on how you look at it, if everything matters, then your choices matter, and then
Mhm.
and ergo, what do you want to do with that kind of power and provenance? Or nothing matters, and nothing you do has a lasting impact. Well, it comes to the same conclusion either way. What do you
Mhm.
want to do? Because either way, it's important or not important. Either important or not important. You got all these power and all these choices, all this stuff to do. So it's like, I want to tell stories, and I want to get people to tell their stories. And here we are,
Mhm.
45 minutes in. This was in this, I think, interview slash therapy session, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Ah.
So, I mean, that's it, right? This is the kind of stuff I enjoy. I get to figure out what makes people tick, and I
Mhm.
and I think
Mhm.
doing this interview, like, yeah, he's on the button at least on some of this stuff. He might be on
Mhm.
it on some things, but that's okay, right? That's
Mhm.
we all have a different way of looking at the world. So then you finish university. You Do you teach, or do you start writing, or both?
Or I was
Okay,
writing before
okay.
I went to university, so yeah, yeah. Um, this book, Lure. This is whoops. Okay, I can't figure this out.
Okay,
I
there
have
you
no
are. You're
spatial.
there. There you
I have
go.
no spatial. This book I wrote the first draft of 30 years ago,
Wow.
and when I was in that place where I was leaving my ex-husband and going to university and doing Native studies, and um, and then I wrapped it up and I had it put away, and I moved a whole lot, and then I found it a couple of years ago and took it out and read it and was like, oh my gosh, it's a romance. So I
Okay.
rewrote it. So I started rewriting it, and it changed. I got not too far in, and it just this other character came up and started talking to me, and then things just all shifted. So
Okay, so
yeah.
I'm gonna ask, and now I'm gonna go into the first book here real quick. I have an interesting question for you. So I'm I'm a big Terry Pratchett fan. One of his books is called The Carpet People,
Right.
and the thing is, it was two Terry Pratchett's that wrote it. It was Terry Pratchett now that polished it, and 14-year-old Terry Pratchett.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, right. And he said one of the biggest challenges of rewriting a book, and since it's your first book, kind of, but it's also kind of a rewrite as well, because 30 years is a big gap between
Hmm.
the W.L. Hawkin that started this book and the W.L. Hawkin that finished this book.
Yeah.
Was it hard?
Um. No, not no. I don't think it was hard. I mean, I process because at this point I've got to my process to a point where I say what happens now, and the characters tell me what happens. So I kept the initial characters, and then I added this indigenous girl. So like what happened is about a few chapters in is the Joe. Um, she found a hand, a skeletal hand in her shed. So she found a body, and it turned out it was this indigenous girl. She's on the reservation in Minnesota, and so that girl came through to me, and because I said who's because I said as the author I'm like, well, whose body is this? Because I don't know. She finds the body. I didn't say, oh, she's going to find a body. She found a body, and then I ask, who is this, and how did you get there? Tell me your story. So she did. Um, she told me her story, and I wrote her story, and I through. So her story is part of this story. Yeah. So it changed in that way.
That's okay. Because like
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard because like that, like for me, I find like when I write a story, I only have like a finite time to write that story. Then I become a different person. And then I
Mhm.
don't have the same voice that younger me had. And while I can definitely do some things better,
Mhm.
I can't match that voice. It's just
Mhm.
that's the thing I've learned. Like I've learned is our voice, our what makes us, I think, become that conduit to that story. right, is whoever we are at that time. And as we accumulate more experiences, our voice changes and our voice evolves. And as our voice evolves, so do the stories we tell. So I find going back is very hard for me for that reason. So I was just, I hope that makes sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It didn't affect me in that way as
Yeah,
much.
no, that's fair.
But I mean, this isn't a teenage me writing either. I mean,
Yeah.
I was already in my mid 30s when I was writing this. Oh
Wow.
dear, how can I be 39? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
like, I don't know.
Anyway, so anyway, that is the book I just released this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to do that.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. And then the other series I started around 2005, and they have been with me. These guys have been with me. They're just part of. They're my friends. They're just staying with me, and
Okay.
so it's not always my voice. It's often their voice. So I'm very much like more of a channeling kind of a writer where I hear
You're a conduit.
conversations.
You're a
Yeah,
conduit.
yeah. I hear the conversations and
Hmm.
I write them. Something I'm doing right now, which is actually really interesting, is I haven't got into the audiobook thing yet, but I saw an interview that this fellow did from Kobo with Google Play. Google Play. So Google Play now has this opportunity. So
Mhm.
you can, if you have your books on Google Play, you can take your EPUB and you can add an artificial voice to it, an AI voice to it,
Mhm.
and it reads your book for you, and you can create an ebook.
Yeah.
So last week, I created an ebook for this one. And over the weekend, I was creating one for this one, which is, whoops, where are we going here?
There you go. You're right. So to
There,
charm
to
or
Charm a
killer.
Killer. So I have, and you go through the voices and you choose the one that works. So I found this voice that I really liked. This is an old English guy. And I was just before it came on the show. So what you have to do is, because it's AI, some of the words it understands and some of them it doesn't. So they actually give you your text while the person's reading, and you can then grab the
Adjust.
word and give it the right pronunciation. So you can change it so that they pronounce it right.
Interesting.
So it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Mhm.
And so I was listening to a conversation between my two main guys tonight, just before I came on here, and I felt like I was in the room. Like, that's how good it was. Like the dialogue. He This is an AI voice, but he's actually making it sound like a conversation. And I'm like, how is this happening? It was great.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
AI is definitely. I'm going to be very curious what audiobooks look like in about 5 years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people do audiobooks as a living, and this is going to adjust what they do to some degree. To some degree,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
um, in terms, there's a couple things for it, right? Like for example, from a business, just strictly a business end of things, who owns your voice, right? Like strictly from a business, like an IP perspective, right?
Hmm.
So I've done a podcast. There are literally hundreds of episodes of my voice and my intonation and my
Hmm. Hmm.
cadence
Hmm.
online. Now, it would behoove me to trademark this sometime
Hmm.
next
Hmm.
year so that no one gets the idea of, hey, his voice is awesome. I'm like, yes, my voice is awesome. Pay me. But it's my voice. Right?
Hmm.
Right. So that's like we're gonna be that's gonna be interesting in the next few years, but it's also gonna be interesting, like you said, just what you just did.
Yeah.
You're engineering a book with a ready-made voice,
It's
which
great.
yeah.
It's blowing me away, actually.
Yeah, no,
It re-
it's incredible, like what you
yeah.
can do with some of the AI stuff today, and some of it today. It's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting in a few years where we go or how far we go. I may be just in a fishing boat with booze and drinking, and if it gets too complicated, it's like, what else am I going to be able to do with my time? Well, I might as well start fishing and drinking and fishing. Who knows?
Who knows? The next piece is that, like, because I use multiple narrators, is to be able to have that chapter be this person and this chapter be maybe a female voice, and the different narrators. And
Yeah.
we need a whole lot more selection as to the sampling. I'm sure those people get paid. And I'm sure that if you choose them, they probably are getting a kickback from Google. I don't know.
We'll see. My gut tells me, based on what I've seen with Spotify and Amazon, some of these big companies, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to be quite as quick to say yes. I don't have that faith in the machinery of our system to go that people are going to be fair and just.
Yeah, I'm going to be optimistic and think that my guy came in and got his voice sampled, because they do sample voices.
Oh, no.
And
They
got paid
do.
for that.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying it's a completely thing, but I am going to be very curious what the rates are for that kind of thing, because honestly, it's one of those situations where I can see again. I'm not saying it's all bad, but I definitely, I've seen with musicians in Spotify, for example, right? I've seen, like, there are some disparaging. Most artists are criminally underpaid, and some of the systems in place are exactly why they are criminally underpaid. So,
but flip side, authors like myself, who are paying thousands of dollars to try and get people to read their books, are criminally underpaid. And then if we have to go and pay $6,000-7,000 to a person to read our book, we're never ever going to make that money up. Never. Okay. So we won't.
I wouldn't say never, but it is a daunt. No,
I've got 5 books sitting here that need to be read. Okay. So, if you're talking $5,000 even per book,
that's 35,000.
That's 25 grand.
Yep.
I am not going to make that up, in selling audiobooks at like $10.99.
No,
it's just it's not going to happen. And so, I think that authors are as underpaid as anybody else is.
Oh, I completely agree with you on that. Like, but it's one of those. See, it's a tricky thing, right? Because I speak as a freelancer now, like with some of my freelances. I know, like, for me to do an audiobook takes about 60 hours of work, minimum, right? Depending on how big the book is, quality, things of that nature. It takes about 60 hours. So that's not cheap. Even like, I could, if that's $20 an hour, that's $1,200. That's $30 an hour. It's $1,800. If I have a name value to go with that, it goes up even more exponentially, and that is a reasonable business model. No matter what people, it's like $5,000 seems like a lot of money. On one hand, it is, but on the other hand, not really, right? It really depends on your point of view. It also depends on who you are. Someone like say Jonas Sull, or someone that does make those big, that can get those sales regardless of the cost of the audio. Right.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So it really depends on where you are in the scheme of things too. Right. So now maybe it'll take 20. It's the 20 book to 50K model for you. Then again, maybe you get a home run with your next book. Like, that's the thing about this industry too. You put something out there, and you're not sure where it can, and you're just not sure where it leads you to. It's an interesting industry in that sense, right? There's a huge ceiling, and there's a lot of people on the floor.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's just
I wonder. I'd like to know how much Stephen Fry got paid to narrate the Harry Potter books.
A lot. Like,
those are massive books too, right? And he's so amazing.
So so I charge something like $200 per finished hour. So what that means is, so an hour, a book going 8,000 words is about an hour material.
Mhm.
So for me to record 8,000 words takes anywhere from 3 to 6 hours to get that 1 hour.
Mhm.
So perfect. So 200 sounds like a lot, but then when you divide it by the actual time,
Mhm.
right, 25, $30 an hour is what I'm charging. So reasonable, right? Considering the work I'm putting into it. But it's one of those things, again, it's understanding the nature of the industry. A lot of authors, again, especially when you're starting, don't have the money to put that kind of money in. But when you're a publisher, and Harry Potter is making a shit ton of money, like, and
Oh
still
yeah.
is,
Oh
it
yeah.
still is making a shit ton of money.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. So you can get some of these guys, some of these big guys who are charging something like 400, 600, even $1,000 per finished hour, and you're not even blinking, right? You're
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
even blinking. You're there for the voice, the
Mhm.
experience, it's a very, again, the industry is very interesting that way.
Mhm. Mm. Anyway, that's what I
Yeah,
did on the weekend, and
yeah,
that's what I've been
totally.
just doing, and I'm having a really good time.
Yes, yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
you're becoming an audio engineer.
Well, I am, and that's it. Is you have to listen to it. It's like, well, wait a minute, he's not saying that word properly. How am I going to have him say that word properly?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So a few places, I'm like, I'm going to tweak that word. I'm going to use a different word.
yeah.
Or
Which is
how do I phonetically spell this?
yeah,
And it's
no.
some Irish Gaelic phrase, right?
Yeah,
Um,
no, and that is the big advantage AI has. If I were to do the story for you, I would do it a
mhm.
certain way, and you'd be like, you might be able to get some changes, but some things you're gonna be like, no, this is interpretation. I guess I'm stuck with it,
Yeah,
right? Right.
yeah.
Whereas now you have a lot more of that. If you have the patience to do it and the time to do it, if you're looking for very specific saying, yeah, like yeah,
Mhm,
you can really fine tune the feel and the story of it in very
mhm.
different ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it sounds like you're having a lot of fun doing it.
I am, and it's bringing me. The cool thing is, I'm about to write book 5, so I have
Mm.
4 books in this series, and I'm about to write book 5. So when I'm doing that and closing my eyes and listening to him read it, it really brings me, right into that space again. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And you're having a blast doing it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you did, that was your first book. That was your first book, right? What you did there, technically your first novel. And then you found your way into a series. So I'm going to ask this again, you were good in English. It's like, and obviously you've been studying certain things for the last few years. Was there any fiction that inspired you to kind of go this way too? I'm just curious.
Hmm. You know what? I don't think so. I'm
That's fair.
just trying to think because I'm always trying to find comp titles. They're always like, "Oh, what are the comp titles?" I have not yet found comp titles for this
All right.
series. Um, so yeah.
So so then what's the elevator pitch for your series, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, it's about a Wicca coven that uses ritual magic to solve murders. Yeah.
Okay. So magic and
And
solve
it
murders.
basically follows this one guy who's um, a bisexual stage magician and the Wicca high priest as he travels around trying to save his family and friends from danger and figure out his own personal issues, to which he has many.
So
Mhm,
okay. So when we talk mystery, and
mhm,
I forgive me if I'm sounding facetious here.
mhm.
Are we talking Scooby Doo? Are we talking Dresden Files? Are we talking Kim
Oh,
Harrison? Kind
more
of like,
Dresden Files, I would say. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Um, I mean, there's a serial killer in the first one.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Okay, no,
international
I'm just,
crime in the second one. Yeah.
I'm just putting like because
No,
again, mystery.
it's edgy. It's
Yeah,
edgy.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
No,
not
I somehow
cozy.
didn't. I somehow didn't think he had those meddling kids in there any way, shape, or form. But it's
Yeah.
always good. It's always good to hear it from the horse's mouth. Like, okay, this
Yeah.
is what this is. So this, it sounds to me like you've combined elements of, it's a mystery. It's a mystery thriller for sure, but it's also got a little bit of, I guess, for lack of another context, an urban fantasy kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
for a while, I used to say my tagline was urban fantasy with a twist of murder, but then I realized
That doesn't quite fit, but it does sound
doesn't
nice.
quite fit, and it's
Yeah.
not all urban fantasy, and there's more than a twist of murder going on. I mean, by the time you get to the third one, which is the one I sent you the trailer for, I just made my own first trailer too, which was so much fun. It's a vampire thriller, and it's
Yeah.
quite dark, and it's horror. Yeah. And then
Well,
the
yeah.
fourth one, and then the fourth one, they end up time traveling back to Iron Age Ireland, and yeah. So I don't stick to genres particularly. I just follow this guy.
Oh, that's okay. Hello, little duck. Hello. Beautiful thing about Twitch is people can see you and have these conversations, and we are finishing an interview here, little duck. That's what we're doing. We're near the end of this. So, but like I said, so you have 4 books, no end in sight. This is your series.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote another book in between, So I wrote those 4, and then I wrote Lure, and then I just wrote a book called Ghostlight, which is in revision right now and out to beta readers. Some high school kids actually, which is awesome because it's a YA, and so I wanted some help with that as to if I was on the money or not. And now I'm back with book 5 because it just needs to happen. So
No, it's fair. No,
I'm connecting with him again, saying, okay, what are we doing? And yeah, because at the end of book 4, he was given this gift to have an epic do-over of book 3. So that's what we're going to do. So we're back with the vampires. We're going to be back with the vampires.
So YA than vampires, okay? So I guess I'll ask this. Obviously, you got your main series. So are you like kind of just are you just branching off naturally, just to, for lack of a better term, palate cleansing a little bit?
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because when I wrote the Hollystone Mysteries, and I've been writing them for a while, right? And so I had a couple of people say, why don't you just write something that's a little bit more mainstream, that doesn't have like a sexy bisexual magician that's getting into a lot of trouble. So I thought, okay, fine. So then when I found Lure, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty mainstream. We'll try this, right?
Yeah.
So I did write it, and it's a good story. But I'm really drawn to the characters in the Wicca characters.
Yeah.
Just because of who they are. They're just a huge part of my life, and it's like you would be getting rid of your friends, and I just can't.
It's not. It's like I said. Everybody kind of approaches this a little differently. Like I do trilogies by and large because I think big series might be a little complicated for me. I don't know. I just like, my first series was an epic poetry that I accidentally got traditionally published. That's okay. That's a story.
Oh, very nice.
I accidentally wrote it. Accidentally got it published. It was kind of cool. The second series I'm doing right now is Alice in Wonderland Greek Mythology Mashup, which is Alice's Pandora, which works quite well.
I love it.
Yeah, no. So that's what I'm doing, and then I have a Race Inside a Star, which is kind of like fun, which is kind of like a little homage to the Three Musketeers. I have a graphic novel, Fahrenheit 451, kind of homage I'm doing there. And I have another comic, and then I have a Stick Figure Revolution, which is going to be my first Kickstarter next year, which is going to be kind of fun. like I said, I have lots of different creative ideas and things. So I like
Mhm,
doing like little bursts of creativity in
mhm,
world. But some authors, they find a series, they love it. This is what they do. Like I think of something like Raymond E. Feist's Magician series. He did Pug forever and ever and ever, and it was he loved it. Right, that was his
mhm,
thing. I mean, I mean, in more traditional publishing, there is also the reality too that if you have a hit, publishers want you to keep doing said hit. That doesn't
mhm,
really, but also at the same time, and there are people who love the characters they're writing, and that's where you kind of fit in. But even so,
mhm,
there's always a little bit. There's just a little bit of, you know, you need every once in a while we just need to do something different
mhm,
because it actually makes us sharper when we come back to these series.
mhm, mhm. No, I agree. I agree. And it's just nice to do something else. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
I wrote the last book I wrote, which is Ghostlight. That's the one that's in revision right now. I basically, I basically wrote that because I was a lighthouse keeper for a year in 2013. I took a year off teaching because I was frazzled, and I went and became a lighthouse keeper. And I had been to a couple of these light stations that were just gorgeous, and there's like lots of ghosts and stuff around lighthouses because they're old and people die there, and there's people are out in ships, and there's history, and there's all these things. So I thought, oh, this would be a really good place to put a mystery novel.
Huh.
So that's kind of what happened. Is that happened. That one's taken a number of years for me to actually finish because I
And
keep going back to these.
yeah, no, no, again, it's not always about finishing necessarily, but it's the act of doing. I draw.
Mhm,
Sometimes I'm good at it. Sometimes I'm not so good at it. I'm
mhm,
learning,
mhm, mhm.
right? But I find it informs my writing because what happens there is I now have a different understanding of how to tell a story because I've done something
Right.
different. And when I come back, it's like, okay, I'm smarter and wiser and shit, right? Or something to that effect, right? And I say it like that because um, I say it like that because that it's important. I think variety is a very necessary part of creativity. Now,
Mhm,
again, it's not always about public releases, but even like I just interviewed Marissa Mayer. She did a rom com. She does epic like YA retelling of fairy tales in really cool ways. That's what she does generally, but
mhm.
she also does rom coms because they're a nice little palate cleanser between these
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
epic. We all need them. It's healthy for us to do cool shit for
Mhm,
ourselves sometimes, if
mhm,
nothing
mhm,
else.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I got two final questions, then we'll get to plugging and calling it an interview because I get the feeling we've definitely gotten good time here, but I think we're near the end here. I just get that I just get that feeling. Um, the first is you seem to be very comfortable in the mystery thriller. I mean, for all the magic supernatural stuff, it
Mhm.
seems at heart you enjoy mysteries. So why?
Absolutely.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, that's what I watch all the time. If I have a choice of something,
Oh, it's what you
I'm
like.
curious. Yeah, it's what I like. I want to, yeah, I want to know what happened. And yeah,
So this is gonna sound off topic, but it's not. Do you like playing games? Like I'm talking like board games, stuff like that, like or anything like that?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. See, the cool thing about mysteries and thrillers is they have a certain mechanism to them. Right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying they're
yeah.
all clockwork, but it's almost like you're building a game and playing a game with
Hmm,
your audience
hmm.
when you do mystery. Like, hey, listen, I got this really cool mystery and can you figure it out? And that's part of the fun of mystery sometimes is can you figure it out? Now, sometimes the challenge of a mystery is this. Sometimes the audience figures it out early. Can you still make it interesting enough for them to finish the rest of the book?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That is a challenge. Yep, yep.
Right? Right. So and that's it, right? So I'm guessing like your inner. I'm going to say this: your inner slash gamer slash whatever the case it is, and the part of you that likes mysteries aren't probably that different.
Hmm. No, I'd say, yeah, that's right on.
Yeah. What's your games of choice, if you don't mind my asking? I'm curious now.
You know what? Yeah, board games. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been alone most of my life, so board games is tough. Um, but I mean, yeah.
But it can be any game. Like, what do you like to play?
Well, you know what I want to do? I'm trying to talk my kids who live here, into getting into D&D.
It's
And
story
you know
time.
why? Because I'm trying to think of the name of that series, because I just love this series. The one with Elle, with Elle and the
Oh,
kids.
Death and Elle and the Kids.
Elle
Are you talking
11. 11. I know you know this.
Elle? See, when I think Elle, I'm thinking Death Note, which is an anime series.
No,
Which
11. She's a little kid. She's got her head shaved. There's all these other little kids. They're trying to save her. It's in the 80s.
Oh, geez.
It's a big TV series.
Trying to save her.
Yeah, they're trying to save her because
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm not.
Anyway,
I'm not
the
cool.
kids play D&D in that. The little kids play D&D in that. It's fantastic.
Okay, I'll have to watch it.
I almost want to go and find it right now and be like, it's this. Yeah.
I just gotta warn you. I am so uncool when it comes to television. I literally I pet like right now for modern television. The only two shows I've watched are The Boys and The Wheel of Time. That's it. I don't.
Okay.
I'm
telling you, you would really. I'm gonna text you this or send this to you because you'd really love this show.
Okay. No, I'm so busy creating. I generally don't watch much television anymore. I'm still and most of the stuff I love is like cartoons and comics. Like I'm still like I told you, I'm still like 12 at heart in some ways, right? So
that's why you would really, really like this show.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the kids, when they start out on this show, they are about 12 when it starts, and then it's gone through, a few seasons now.
Okay. I don't know, but you'll have to tell me. I'm sure somebody out there listening to this will say
somebody. Yeah, I know. And I'm
okay. No, so
I have to look.
D&D is cool but if they don't want to do D&D, board games is a good choice too. There are some really good board games that you can play with the family that are really fun, and some of them are what they call beer and pretzel board games. Which if your kids are if you're just trying to hang out with good people, like people you love. You may not want a sophisticated game, right? And there's a few of those. There are really sophisticated games. Like one of the ones I think you'd love would be like Arkham Horror. The setup is horrendous, but it's basically you got 10 turns and you got to survive like the ancient horrors of the Elder Gods from like the Cthulhu mythos. It's a fantastic game. It takes a while to set up. It's epic, but they're really fun. But those are like really epic games. And then there's like stuff like Seven Wonders, or stuff like that are simpler to set up. You're just friends, you're playing, and you're having a good time, right? And like I said, my personal favorite board game right now is Dice Throne. Buddy of mine has it. I just enjoy playing it. It's fun. I get my ass kicked all the time, but it's just a cool, fun little game. So I enjoy it.
No, my son-in-law just brought home Game of Thrones yesterday, so.
Oh, that's a really good game, but I
think that will be good. So we'll be doing that.
It's a hard game.
He's got all these little critters all over the place.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Like when you get to turn, like the first 3 turns are kind of easy, but after that, you're going to be like your brain will melt with some of the options you have. The game only has 10 turns max.
Okay.
Max. So it gets really hard. You get to like turns 4 and beyond. Turns start taking longer and harder. It feels epic. It's a really good game. So you'll have fun. All
right.
Okay.
I cheated and I looked, and the name of that show that you need to watch is Stranger Things.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet. No, but
do you know what it is though?
I do know the game.
You do need to watch it because it really is cool.
Yeah. There's 2 things I know about Stranger Things. Running up that hill is a big part of the game. It was a big part of it, and I can't promise when I'll watch it because I would be lying to you if I give you an exact date.
Okay.
I'd be lying. I try not to lie. That's how I look at it. It's like so, but I will look at it at some point. So what book? So what's current for you? Like, was the book you showed me at the beginning? Is that your most recent release?
Yes. Lure, I guess, is the most famous.
Not
Famous,
famous.
not the
Famous
most
is
famous.
most
The
recent.
most recent. The most recent. But yeah, but I really am into my series right now because it's Halloween, and
Okay.
so I've got a lot going on with especially the vampire book right now, and I just had so much fun creating that trailer.
Okay.
Who knew?
So then I'm gonna give you a choice here. I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
I think we're good.
I think we're
Yeah.
good. So you should promote something here. We're at the end of the show. So you got to plug something because it's the end of the presentation, and it's like, ladies and gentlemen, this is WL Hawkin. She is awesome.
Hmm.
Why are you so awesome? What books would you recommend somebody? And
Well,
where can people
okay.
find you?
I think because you're kind of an edgy kind of a guy. I think your listeners are going to be the kind of edgy kind of people. So I think, yeah, I think you can see it actually. My behind me on the wall there.
Yeah, the Hollystone Mysteries,
Yeah.
Myth,
Well, I
Magic,
don't know
and
where I'm
Mayhem.
going here. There we go.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
there you go. Okay, so yeah, the Hollystone Mysteries, and they're a lot of fun. They're really edgy. There's myth, magic, and mayhem. That's the new tagline on it, right?
Okay.
And yeah, and I just have a lot of fun with them.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask this question straight up. Should I start with book one, or can
You
you
know what?
pick
You
up
don't
any?
have to. You don't have to.
Will you lose?
Um,
Will you lose something if you don't? Though I mean, I asked this like that because the only reason I'm asking like that because again, we're going to talk Dresden Files. Yes, you don't need to read book one to read
yeah,
books two and three, but it does lose a little something from one if you don't. So
it's richer. It'll be richer for sure in terms of understanding the relationships.
yeah, okay.
But on Sci-Fi Saturday Night, I don't know if you know the guys from Sci-Fi Saturday Night, Dome and Cam, and we just lost Dome this year, which was heartbreaking. But they started because when I met them, I had just come out with my fourth one, which is To Kill a King, and I
Right.
can't do that. There,
There you
there,
go.
there. And so they read the fourth one, and I did the show with them, and then they read the third one, and I did the show with them, and then when I was on with the third one, I said, "I think you guys should read the first one." They're like, "No, no, no. Why would we do that? We're going backwards." So that would be ridiculous. We're not going to do that. So yeah,
They Merlin that mofo. So we're gonna go backwards instead this time.
yeah, yeah. So it was really fun. So and they just love them, and they're that said book three is a horror. I didn't even think of it that way till they said it, and then I read it again. I'm like, oh yeah, it is. There's a lot of horror in there.
It's a yeah.
So
So
it's a
they
perfect Halloween companion.
all right. So
Hmm.
I guess then what you should do is then you should tell me the synopsis of book three and where people can find it and you.
All right. Well, what you should do is go and look at my trailer, which is on Blue Haven Press, and then you're going to see what the book is about because I just created the trailer for it. And right now, actually, it is on for 99 cents, the ebook.
Okay. So is that
Yeah.
did I get the right place?
Yep. Yep.
Trained professional right here, ladies and gentlemen. Trained professional.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, go definitely if you're interested in the book, go to brewhavenpress.com and you will get access to this wonderful little book. And for 99 cents, from now until when?
Till I decide to take it off. No, I think
Okay.
it's
So
probably
she decides to take it
a
off,
few more
folks.
days. A few more days. Is this live or
This is live. This will also air as an audio in a couple weeks. Like as
okay?
right, and that's what the big
Okay.
audience is in a couple weeks. So that's why I'm
Okay.
bringing
May
this
not
up.
be on then, but it
Okay,
might. I don't know.
so
I'm
if you're
doing a lot
listening,
of Halloween stuff right now, so I've got a couple of big Halloween deals coming up where I'm going to be
all
reading
right.
it. So I'm kind of pushing that book
So
for
so
Halloween.
so folks, whenever this comes out on my thing, that right, go check out bluehavenpress.com. She'll have some Halloween goodies still there. Go bug her, go say hello. This is
Hmm.
WL Hawkin. And is that the only place you want people to go to? Is there your website, or is there anywhere else like social media, anything you'd like to mention?
You know what? All of that is pretty easy to get to from my website. So if you start at my website, you're going to find,
Okay,
you
no,
know,
that's fine.
yeah,
So,
yeah, all of that.
ladies and gentlemen, let's just get to the bread and butter here. This is W.L. Hawkin. This was a wonderful conversation, and her books are available right now to be purchased. Right now, there's a 99-cent deal. I don't know if you're listening to this episode, that deal will still be in place, but if it is, definitely go check it out, right? And if not, go there, say hello. As you can see, W.L. Hawkin with their 39 and whatever other years that go with it is
The
definitely
wisdom years.
the wisdom years. Yes,
Yes.
yeah. I'll let you in on the origin of that joke real quick. My grandmother used to always joke, "I'm 39, I'm going to stay that way." So my grandmother now is long past 39. But I always go to her like, "You're 39 in 1920th and 2021st," and I just play along with it because why not, right?
Yeah,
It makes her laugh.
absolutely.
It makes her laugh. So, folks, this is WL Hawkin. Go check out our webpage, and I do videos, audios, words, and pictures for your projects, your books, and yourselves. I have a big mouth, and I'm good at talking people up. So definitely check out my services if you want. And that will do it. I am back on Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, for another stream with another wonderful guest. This is W.L. Hawkin. She rock. I want to thank her very much for coming on. And to
Thank
everybody
you.
watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you next time.